a little bit of black copper stingray. We're going to get even more in depth with this as time goes along. Anyway, what's going on, guys? It's Vectrix, back at you with Vaping with Vectrix. New channel coming out, so you guys can head over there, check that. That's going to be about all my vaping details. So, that's going to be Vectrix Vapes. So, today we are talking tanks. All different kinds, all different styles, capacities. So, and finally, we're actually going to go uppy closey with these. So, bear with me. We're going to go switch over to up close time now. So, cameraman, start that intro, and let's get to it. Get ready to fly! Alright guys, now we're back. Been a while. The battery in the camera charged, so this is later in the day. I have a light set up over here so I can actually get in. But we're going to start with, and I don't have the full setup for this, but we'll start with the CE4s, or CE5s, or pretty much they're Stardust. And basically, they have a recessed 510 connection. So then these right here would go over your ego threading. These are only made for your, you see my wife messing around with stuff right there. So these would only go for your ego style batteries, because like on a mechanical mod, let's use this for instance, it's not going to work because it would be recessed into there. However, on your ego style batteries, and we'll go over batteries later on, basically this would sit right in there, screw on, and that's about how you would use it. You would have your drip tip. The coils in here are top coils. So basically, let's see, this would be on a post and would screw into place, but it would sit up there and there, and then you would have your drip tip would be here, which it would screw in, and then it would lock down on the silicone. Let me see if I can get in there. Yep. Okay, this little silicone right here, make a pretty much a tight connection so you won't leak any liquid out of your tank. And every so often, tip your tank just to make sure everything gets wet. You don't get a dry hit from one of these. But these are 1.6 mil. Let's see if I can get it on. These are 1.6 mils. Then you would go into something like a cartomizer, and I don't do any cartomizer tanks or anything like that. But a cartomizer, alright, is pretty much, you have your heating element inside of here. It'll be punched holes. Pretty much it would sit inside, and there are different styles for the cartomizers, but your liquid would surround it. Again, your drip tip would make a connection to the silicone on top, so there was no leaking. And then your liquid would go through these little holes right here, and then you'd be able to fire it and produce your vapor that way. So those are your Stardust and your basic cartomizers and whatnot. But moving forward, what you would have is Vivi Novas, or mini Vivis, and this one is a mini Vivi Nova, and this is, I believe, 2. Where is the right? There we go. Won't be able to see on the camera that much. No. All right. Well, this is 2, and basically the same premises. Unlike the Stardust, though, your drip tip will just pull off. You'll be able to get different drip tips, glass if you want to use them, plastics, whatnot. And this is a top coil as well. And that would unscrew like that. Then you have your 510 connection, which will fit mechanical mod. But tanks like this, and I don't know if you can see it right there. That little airflow is where you're going to be able to get the airflow to produce the vapor. The one thing about a mechanical mod is you can have your different airflow indentations, but if you screw on the tank, it's gonna end up blocking some of the airflow. You end up getting it flush. Get it flush real quick. And so that airflow is actually going to be, on the mechanical mod, it's going to be blocked. So, I mean, but if you use it on an Ego style battery, you'll be fine, because it does have those little grooves right there. You'll be able to fire it no problem. But these come apart. They are semi-rebuildable. You can buy coils, or you can just rebuild the coil that's inside of them. And we'll go over rebuilding another time. Like I said, these are top coils, so you will still every so often have to tip and tilt, just to make sure that you don't end up getting a dry hit. So let me put this back together. So when it's filled up, basically in your Ego style battery, and let me see where's my little pack right here. That's the one I want right there. Oftentimes what you'll get is a beauty ring. Now, beauty ring's gonna just screw over. Then you can just put in your tank. Gives it a more flush look. This does have airflow holes, so you would be able to maintain airflow no different than without it. It's just meant to cover up and make things a little bit more pretty than having just your basic threads. But as I was saying about the tilting, what you would do is, if this was filled with juice, there we go. Okay, so when you're vaping, all you're going to do is give it a quick tilt, a couple seconds if that, just to make sure that you're bringing that liquid back up into the coils, getting them saturated. Because dry hit is definitely something you are not going to want to have. And we'll move forward onto your Protank Anger. Let's see if we can get the logo in there. It's a Anger Protank. This is version 1. And basically, the benefit of having this is that you have a gravity-fed tank, which means you're not tipping, you're not tilting. All the juice is going to just sit proper and flow downwards into the coil, which is going to be on the base. And again, this has a 510 connection. Okay. And that'll screw out. And on a Protank 1, you cannot remove any pieces. Like, it's all solid one piece. There's no drip tip. It's just one solid piece. Okay, the coil is going to be here, housed in the base. Okay, coil will screw right through that. There's your coil, and this little piece will come off, and there's your coil right there. Okay, now if you would get a new coil, it would come in to a pack like this. You just pop it open, take it in, thread it into your base. And what I do is when I put the coil into a Protank, I always go back from where it was tightening until I hear a click. Right there. And then just screw it in. That way I know the threading's going to be even. It's going to be as tight as I can get it. You want it finger tight so you'd be able to remove it later on. Now, what some people have is an issue with airflow every so often. And just a quick, simple fix that I have found is, you see this metal pin right here at this rubber grommet? Now, if you put your nail into that rubber grommet and pull that pin, not completely out, but out enough, and just gently push it back into place. Leave a little gap. Okay. Screw that back in. Again, that click. Screw it in. Now, that pin right here is going to be out a little bit, and this will self-adjust to the mod or battery that you're using. So that will help with your airflow problems. That's a basic, simple little fix. Again, to screw it back on, I do the same thing till it clicks, and then just finger tight, and that would be your Protank version 1. Now, these have a higher capacity than, say, your Mini Novas or your Stardust. These are going to be, I believe, 2.5. You can manage to get 3 if you fill it up right to, say, the line. Where's that little thing I had right here? If you fill it right to the top of this little center post, I believe that would be the 3 mil mark. Don't quote me on that. But the upgrade to this is going to be your Protank II. Now, it works in the same fashion. It's gravity fed. You can do the same airflow fix, same capacity, and the benefit of the Protank 1 and Protank 2 is that they are metal and they are Pyrex glass. Now, why get glass? Yes, it's more easier to break than, say, Stardust. However, there are certain juices out there that will crack your tank, plastic tank. So your cinnamons, I know a gummy bear will break it. Your sour juices, those will crack a plastic tank. So having one of these is definitely a benefit if you are planning on going towards those juices. Now, why the Protank 2 is a upgrade from the Protank 1 is you have a removable drip tip. Again, it's a 510 drip tip. You can swap it out. Let me grab the one off of the Mini Nova and just put that in. You're good to go. Any 510 drip tip is going to work for this. And then the stock one. Oops, that went in upside down. Oops. Now, also, just like Protank 1, screws from the base. You have your coil. Like I said, same capacity. There's a benefit to this, and that is that this entire thing comes apart. Okay? Now the benefit of this is you can replace this glass piece if it's broken. The Protank I, if it's broken, you have to order a new one. I've been through maybe 3 Protanks in the last year, and it's not fun when they go around 10 to 15 bucks a pop. Luckily I was able to find some on sale, so. But yeah, I mean, these glass pieces right here come in all different colors as well. So if you want to even customize your wear even more, say you have a wrap that goes around your Ego battery, you change the color because you don't like black, or maybe you got a blue or whatnot, order yourself a custom colored glass tank. Another benefit is these are a lot easier to clean because they're individual pieces. You just have to be wary though, and we'll be able to see it really well. But inside of these rims are going to be little O-rings, and you want to make sure that if you're cleaning these, either keep an eye on them or just find something that you could possibly, let me see if I can pull one of these out. Alright, so after a couple seconds of nagging, this O-ring is actually out of the bottom piece. But if you lose these, you may be able to find them online. I would just recommend taking them out, a pair of tweezers or a mini screwdriver, as I use. Just make sure you don't damage it, cut it, take a chunk out of it, and just pull it out while you're cleaning. Set it back in once you're done, just so you make sure that you don't lose it. And there's a new one down there. Basically, actually, what that's going to do is that it's going to, once your tank is all back together, I gotta get used to this staring at a camera screen while doing this, because I'm putting pieces backwards and whatnot. And what that's going to do is, once you have everything together and you have juice in this, it's gonna create sort of a vacuum inside of here with those 2 silicone pieces. So you're not leaking juice, so nothing's spilling away. But be wary that once you get about 2/3 way down, you would either have to refill it with juice or just monitor it, because what happens is you'll start leaking through your connection down here, because the vacuum ends up weakening. So just be wary of that. So besides these, there are more tanks. There's K-Fun styles, which I'm hoping to eventually get soon. I'll go in depth with one of those. Also, you have your RDAs, which are your rebuildable dripping atomizers, or your RBAs. And those are your rebuildable atomizers. And I'll have one of those on camera real quick just to go over them. But the same thing applies here with mechanical mods, that they have airflow issues. The airflow is down in the connection. So just be wary if you want to use these on an Ego or Vamo or a battery along those lines, an MVP. I wouldn't recommend using these for mechanical mods, because that 510 connection, once you screw that down, that pin in there, positive pin, is going to get pushed in. Then you'll just have to retake it out, do that little pin pull trick. These also come in a smaller variant, which are your minis. This is a Protank II mini, and it's pretty much the same setup. You have, where is it? There we go. You have your removable drip tip. Let me see. This is, nope. Actually, this is the Protank Mini 3. For For some reason I thought it was a 2, but I should have known because of the curves. Anyway, it's not two-tone. This is a dual coil system, and that basically, you won't be able to see anything, but basically, actually, I know what I could do is show you that recessed 510 I was talking about. If you can see it in there, these won't work with your mechanical style mods, mainly because of that. However, on an Ego battery, no problem, has the Ego threading. Just sits there, no need for a beauty ring. You can buy, and this has multiple air holes drilled to the threading. This is actually one of my favorite little stealth vapes, I guess, if you want to call it. Seeing that it's so small, it fits perfectly in my hand. Tank would only come to about there. I believe I have strawberry cream on this. But you can get airflow bases. They have an aero tank as well, and basically it takes the air holes out of the 510 connection and lets you control the airflow through the base. But last, what I wanted to just quickly show on camera is a Genesis style RBA, and this is something that is more advanced than the rest of them because you have to put in your own build. Okay, so you have to build your own coil, put your wick down there. This is a 3 to 3.5 capacity, I believe. And then you just attach it to the negative, or the positive and negative posts. Then you're good to vape. These definitely hit a lot better, a lot more vapor production than the rest of them. These are actually my go-to vapes. I definitely do it at home. I started to take some to work with me just because of the vapor production. But that's going to do it this time. So, just a quick to go over. Alright, so, Stardust, which, get rid of that. Don't recommend. Mini Novas or Vivi Novas. Don't really have a complaint against it. It's just the tilting and the occasional dry hit and having to re-wet the wicks, and wouldn't recommend. It's not that it's bad, it's just the gravity fed are definitely a lot better, and definitely recommending for beginners. So a Protank 1, 2, Mini 3, any of your BCCs I would recommend. And then for your advancement, your RDAs and your RBAs in your Genesis style. That's going to actually do it for me. I will see you in the next video. And remember, stay vaping, my friends.